Far away past 1,000 stars, there was a room made of black glass and cold light. This room floated inside a giant station deep in space. Inside the room, dozens of alien leaders sat around a long table. They came from many different worlds. Some had scales, some had many eyes, some had no eyes at all. But tonight every single one of them wore the same look on their face: fear. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Then an old alien with gray skin and tired eyes stood up slowly. His name was Voron Kal, and he was one of the oldest leaders in the galaxy. He had seen 1,000 wars. He had seen empires rise and fall, but he had never felt fear like this. "Play it again," Voron said quietly. A young officer nodded and touched a small screen. A message began to play. It was a human voice, calm, steady, almost gentle. "This is Earth," the voice said. "We did not want this war. We asked for peace 3 times. You did not listen. Now you will see who we really are." The message ended. Silence filled the room again. One of the younger leaders, a sharp-eyed alien named Threz, slammed his hand on the table. "This is impossible," he said. "They are children. They have only had space travel for 200 years. We have had it for 10,000. How can one message from them make an entire fleet disappear?" Voron looked at him with tired eyes. "Because it was not just a message, Threz. It was a warning, and we did not listen to the warning." "Where is our fleet now?" someone asked. Voron was quiet for a moment. Then he said the words that made the whole room go cold. "There is no fleet anymore. To understand this moment, we must go back. Back to before the war. Back to when the galaxy still believed that humans were small, weak, and easy to defeat. 3 years earlier, on the edge of human space, there was a small colony called New Haven. It was not a rich place. It was not a famous place. It was just a quiet farming colony, built on a green planet with 2 moons. About 50,000 people lived there. Families, children, old couples who liked to sit outside and watch the sunset. The people of New Haven grew food for other colonies. They lived simple lives. They were not soldiers. They were not scientists. They were just people, trying to build a good life far from Earth. Nobody in New Haven expected anything bad to happen. The stars above them were quiet. The sky was blue in the day and full of soft light at night. It felt safe. But far away, in a different part of the galaxy, an alien empire called the Drakkar was watching. The Drakkar were a proud and powerful species. They had conquered dozens of star systems. They believed they were the strongest force in the galaxy, and they had heard about humans. Small, soft creatures. No real fleet, no real army. Easy to defeat. Their leader, a tall and cold alien named Commander Vex, looked at reports about New Haven. He smiled. "A farming colony," he said. "No defenses, no warships nearby. This will be an easy first strike. It will send a message to the humans. Surrender, or be destroyed." His officers agreed. They believed this attack would take only a few hours. Then, they thought, the humans would beg for peace just like other weak species had done before. They did not know they were about to make the biggest mistake in Drakkar history. The attack came at night, when the sky over New Haven was calm and full of stars. A young girl named Mira was outside with her little brother, looking up at the sky. She was showing him the second moon, pointing out its soft blue light. Her brother laughed and asked her to tell the story of the moon again, the one their grandmother used to tell. Then the sky changed. A bright light appeared far above the clouds. Then another. Then many more. Within seconds, dozens of alien ships broke through the sky, their engines roaring like thunder. Mira froze. Her brother grabbed her hand, scared. "Mira, what is that?" he asked. She did not answer. She could not. She had never seen anything like it before. Sirens began to scream across the colony. Lights flashed red. People ran out of their homes, confused and afraid. Parents grabbed their children. Old men and women were helped into shelters. Nobody understood what was happening. One moment, the sky was peaceful. The next, it was full of fire. The Drakkar ships began firing down on the colony's power stations and communication towers. They wanted to cut off New Haven from the rest of human space. They wanted to make sure no one could call for help. Explosions lit up the night sky. Buildings shook. Dust filled the air. Inside one of the shelters, Mira held her brother close, her heart pounding. She could hear people crying. She could hear people praying. She could hear the deep, heavy sound of alien ships passing overhead like giant metal birds of death. "Are we going to die?" her brother whispered. Mira did not know what to say. She held him tighter and said nothing. Outside, on the surface, a small group of colony defense officers tried to fight back. They had only a few old weapons, nothing that could match alien warships. They fired anyway, because someone had to try. Within minutes, most of them were gone. Commander Vex watched from his ship, calm and pleased. "As expected," he said. "No real resistance. Send word to Earth. Tell them their colony is destroyed. Tell them to surrender, or every human colony will suffer the same fate." His officers obeyed. But what Commander Vex did not know was that somewhere far away, deep inside a hidden Earth command center, a very different kind of message had already been received. Back on Earth, inside a quiet underground base, alarms began to ring. A tall woman named General Elena Cross stood in front of a large screen, watching the attack unfold in real time through emergency satellite feeds. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes were sharp and full of anger. Around her, officers moved quickly, checking data, confirming numbers, calculating enemy ship types and positions. A young officer turned to her. "General, New Haven colony is under heavy attack. Civilian casualties are rising. It's an unprovoked strike." General Cross did not blink. She had been expecting this day for a long time. Humanity had tried peace. They had sent warnings. They had tried to explain, again and again, that attacking human colonies would have serious consequences. But other species did not believe them. They thought humans were weak because humans did not show off their true power. That was about to change. "Confirm target," General Cross said quietly. "Confirm enemy fleet is Drakkar." "Confirmed, General." She took a breath. For years, humanity had hidden something from the galaxy. Something built quietly, secretly, in the shadows of deep space. Something no other species knew existed. "Wake up, Section 0, General Cross said. The room went silent. Even the experienced officers looked surprised. Section 0 was not something spoken about often. It was humanity's deepest secret. A fleet built not for show, not for conquest, but for the day humanity would finally be forced to prove what it was truly capable of. "General, are you certain?" one officer asked carefully. General Cross looked at the screen where fire still burned over New Haven, where innocent families were hiding in fear, where children like Mira held their little brothers close in the dark. "They attacked innocent people," she said. "They wanted a message sent to Earth." She turned to the officer, her voice steady and cold. "Let's send them one back." Meanwhile, back at New Haven, the attack continued through the night. The Drakkar ships circled above the colony, destroying anything that looked like a weapon or a communication tower. They wanted total control before moving to the next colony. Commander Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the destruction below with pride. He believed this was the beginning of an easy war. He believed humans would surrender within days. Then, one of his officers turned to him, confused. "Commander, we're picking up something strange." Vex frowned. "What is it?" Long-range sensors detected a large object entering the system, but it's gone now. It appeared for less than a second, then vanished. Vex laughed. "A sensor glitch. Humans do not have ships that can move like that." "Yes, Commander," the officer said, though he did not sound fully convinced. Vex turned back to the screen, watching the fires below. He did not know that far above the planet, hidden by advanced human stealth technology, something massive had just entered the system. Something silent, something patient, something that had been waiting for this exact moment. Down on the surface, inside the shelter, Mira had fallen asleep from exhaustion, her brother resting against her shoulder. The explosions outside had slowed down. The Drakkar believed the colony was fully under control. But something felt different in the air. The ground trembled slightly, not from bombs this time, but from something new. Something powerful moving quietly above the clouds. An old man sitting near Mira opened his eyes. He had served in the human military many years ago, before retiring to New Haven for a peaceful life. He looked up toward the ceiling of the shelter, as if he could see through it into the sky. "That's not an explosion," he whispered to himself. "That's an engine." He smiled just a little for the first time that night. "Earth is here," he said softly. Above the planet, Commander Vex's ship suddenly lost contact with 3 of his escort vessels. "Report!" he shouted. "Commander, we've lost contact with ships 7, 8, and 11. No distress signal, no debris. They're just gone." Vex's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Scan the area." The sensors showed nothing. No enemy ships, no weapons fire, just empty space where 3 warships used to be. Then on the main screen, something began to appear. A shape, faint at first, like a shadow forming out of darkness. Slowly, silently, a massive human warship uncloaked directly in front of the Drakkar fleet. It was unlike anything the Drakkar had ever seen. Long, sharp, built with quiet, deadly purpose. Its surface glowed faintly with soft blue light, like the moon Mira had once shown her brother. The bridge went silent. That's not possible," one officer whispered. "Our scans showed nothing there." Commander Vex stared at the screen, his confidence slowly turning into something else, something he had not felt in a very long time. Fear. "Send a message," he said quickly. "Tell them we are willing to discuss terms." But before his officer could respond, a calm human voice came through their communication system, the same voice that had spoken in the War Council message years later. "You attacked innocent people," the voice said. "You gave us no choice." Commander Vex opened his mouth to respond, but he never got the chance. The screen went white. Back on Earth, General Cross watched the reports come in, her face still calm, though her hands were tightly clenched. An officer turned to her. "General, Section 0 has engaged the enemy fleet." She nodded slowly. "Casualties?" "None on our side." The room was silent for a moment. "And the Drakkar fleet?" The officer looked up at her, his voice quiet. "Gone, General. All of them." General Cross closed her eyes for just a second, not in celebration, not in pride, but in quiet sadness, knowing that humanity had just crossed a line it could never go back from. The galaxy would soon learn the truth about Earth, and nothing would ever be the same again. Far above New Haven, the smoke slowly cleared from the sky. The fires began to die down. Rescue teams from nearby colonies started arriving, carrying supplies, medical help, and comfort for the survivors. Inside the shelter, Mira woke up to the sound of footsteps. She opened her eyes and saw soldiers in human uniforms walking through the shelter, checking on survivors, helping the injured, speaking in calm, gentle voices. One of the soldiers knelt down beside her. "It's over," he said softly. "You're safe now." Mira looked past him, out through the open shelter door, toward the sky. The stars were visible again, calm and quiet, just like they had been before the attack. But something had changed. She could feel it. The galaxy was no longer the same as it had been yesterday. Somewhere far away, other species were beginning to receive reports. Reports about an entire alien fleet disappearing in seconds. Reports about a hidden human weapon unlike anything ever seen before. Reports that made every alien leader in the galaxy sit up and take notice. The War Council would form soon. Voroncal would stand and speak the words that would echo across 1,000 worlds. There is no fleet anymore. And far away, on a quiet green planet with 2 moons, a young girl named Mira looked up at the stars, not knowing that her small, quiet colony had just become the reason an entire galaxy would learn to fear humanity. But this was only the beginning, because what the galaxy had seen that night was only a small piece of what humanity had truly been hiding. And soon, they would learn just how much more there was to fear. News of New Haven spread fast, too fast for the Drakkar Empire to hide it. At first, their leaders tried to keep it quiet. They told other species that the attack on New Haven had failed due to technical problems. They said the fleet had been called back for repairs. They did not want anyone to know the truth. But the truth has a way of finding its way out, especially in space where sensors never sleep and satellites always watch. A small trading ship, far from New Haven, had picked up faint signals during the battle. Not much. Just a few seconds of data. But it was enough. Enough to show a human warship appearing out of nowhere. Enough to show an entire Drakkar fleet vanishing in an instant. The trading ship's captain, an alien named Bors, could not believe what he was looking at. He played the signal again and again, checking if it was real. It was real. Bors did something that would change everything. He sold the data. Within days, copies of that signal reached other governments, other species, other war councils across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. What really happened at New Haven? Deep inside the Drakkar homeworld, in a large stone building shaped like a mountain, Commander Vex's superior, a powerful leader named High Marshal Dran, called an emergency meeting. Dran was older than Vex and much more dangerous. He had built his reputation by conquering 6 star systems without losing a single major battle. He did not like losing. He especially did not like losing to a species everyone believed was weak. "Tell me again," Dran said, his voice low and cold, "how an entire fleet disappeared in seconds." The surviving officer, a nervous young Drakkar named Tarn, stood in front of him, shaking slightly. Tarn had been on a support ship far from the main battle, which was the only reason he had survived to report what happened. "High Marshal, our sensors could not track it properly. One second we had 3 escort ships, the next second they were simply gone. No explosion, no debris, just gone. Then a massive ship appeared, using technology we have never seen. It didn't fire many weapons. It didn't need to." Dran's eyes narrowed. "You are telling me a farming colony destroyed one of our fleets?" "No, High Marshal. Not the colony. Something else. Something hidden. We believe it may have been waiting there, cloaked, long before we arrived." Dran was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice filled with cold anger. "Humans have been lying to us, to everyone, hiding real power behind a mask of weakness." He turned to his advisors. "Send word to the Grand Alliance, tell them we need answers. We need to know what humanity really has." But deep down, Dran felt something he rarely felt. Worry. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity prepared for what would come next. Inside a quiet command building near the coast, General Elena Cross stood in a private room, looking over reports from New Haven. The colony was recovering. Survivors were being cared for. Families were being reunited. But she knew this peace would not last long. A door opened and a man walked in. Tall, calm, with sharp eyes and short gray hair. His name was Admiral Jonathan Reyes, the commander of Section 0, humanity's most secret military branch. Reyes had spent almost 20 years preparing for a moment like this. He did not smile often. He did not celebrate victories. He simply did his duty, quietly and carefully, always thinking many steps ahead. "General," Reyes said, nodding respectfully. "Admiral," Cross replied, "I assume you've seen the reports." "I have." Reyes walked over to a large table showing a star map of the galaxy. "The Drakkar Empire will not stay quiet about this. Neither will the others watching." Cross crossed her arms. "You think they'll send a bigger fleet?" "I know they will," Reyes said. "Pride is a powerful thing, General. They lost, and they will want to prove it was a mistake, not a defeat." Cross looked at the star map, at the small marker representing New Haven. "How long do we have?" Reyes thought for a moment. "Days, maybe. A week at most." "And Section 0? Reyes finally allowed a small, quiet smile. "Section 0 has been ready for 20 years, General. We were simply waiting for a reason to show ourselves." Back in Drakkar space, High Marshal Dran gathered a much larger fleet. Not a small strike force this time, but a true invasion fleet. Over 200 warships built for total conquest, gathered above the Drakkar homeworld. Dran stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Crown, watching the fleet form in perfect formation outside his window. Ships stretched as far as the eye could see, their weapons ready, their engines glowing with power. "This will not be a mistake twice," Dron said quietly to himself. He turned to his officers. "Set course for the human home system. We will not attack a small colony this time. We will go straight to the heart of their power. We will show them, and the entire galaxy, who truly rules the stars." The fleet moved out, cutting through space like a blade, heading straight for Earth. Word of this massive fleet spread quickly across other alien nations. Many were curious. Some were worried. A few were secretly hoping the Drakkar would fail, tired of their constant pride and aggression. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. No small species could survive an attack from a fleet this size. On Earth, sensors picked up the Drakkar fleet long before it arrived. Screens lit up with warnings across every command center on the planet. But strangely, there was no panic, no fear, just calm, quiet preparation. Inside Section Zero's main base, hidden deep beneath the ocean floor, Admiral Reyes watched the incoming fleet data with a steady expression. 212 warships, an officer reported. ETA, 3 days. Reyes nodded slowly. "Good. That gives us enough time." A younger officer named Captain Elias Wu turned to him, slightly nervous. "Admiral, with respect, 200 warships is a massive force. Are we truly ready for this?" Reyes looked at him calmly. "Captain, do you know why humanity built Section Zero?" Elias shook his head. "Not fully, sir. After humanity made first contact with other species, we quickly learned something important," Reyes said. "Most species in this galaxy respect only one thing: strength. Kindness, they saw as weakness. Peace offers, they saw as fear. So Earth made a choice. We would show peace to those who wanted peace, but we would prepare quietly, patiently, for those who only understood war." He looked at the star map, where the Drakkar fleet moved closer every second. "Section Zero was never meant to conquer," Reyes continued. "It was built to protect, to remind anyone who threatens us that humanity chooses when to reveal its true strength, not the other way around." Elias swallowed nervously. "And now?" Reyes turned back to the screen, his eyes calm but sharp. "Now, we let them come." 3 days passed quickly. The Drakkar fleet crossed through empty space, moving ever closer to the edge of the solar system. High Marshal Dron stood proudly on his bridge, confident in his massive force. "Sensors show no enemy activity," an officer reported. "The human system appears quiet." Dron smiled coldly. "As expected. They know what's coming, and they are afraid." But something felt strange to him. Too quiet, too calm. He remembered what happened at New Haven, the way that human warship had appeared out of nowhere, cloaked perfectly, hidden until the last possible second. "Increase sensor range," Dron ordered. "Scan every corner of this system. I want no surprises this time." His officers obeyed immediately, running deep, wide-range scans across the entire solar system. For several tense minutes, nothing appeared. Just empty space, quiet stars, and the distant blue glow of Earth ahead. Then, one officer's voice broke the silence. "High Marshal, we're detecting movement, small human ships approaching from multiple directions." Dron straightened. "How many?" "Only 12, High Marshal." Dron laughed, the tension in his chest easing slightly. 12 ships? Against 200? Have they lost their minds? His officers chuckled nervously along with him, relieved to have something familiar to laugh at after days of tension. "Send a message to the human ships," Dron ordered. "Tell them to stand down or be destroyed." The message was sent. There was no response. Instead, the 12 human ships spread out into a wide formation, calm and steady, moving directly toward the massive Drakkar fleet. "They're not retreating," an officer said, confused. Dron's smile faded slightly. "Then they are fools. Weapons ready. Destroy them." The Drakkar fleet opened fire. Hundreds of energy blasts shot toward the 12 human ships, filling space with bright streaks of deadly light. But something strange happened. The human ships moved perfectly, smoothly avoiding almost every shot fired at them. It was as if they knew exactly where each blast would land before it was even fired. "Impossible," an officer whispered. "Our targeting systems show perfect locks, but they're still dodging." One of the human ships suddenly fired back, a single precise shot that tore straight through the shields of a nearby Drakkar warship, destroying it instantly. The bridge went silent. "One shot," an officer said quietly, his voice shaking. One shot destroyed an entire warship. Dron's eyes widened slightly, but he refused to show fear in front of his crew. Focus fire overwhelmed them with numbers. Dozens of Drakkar ships turned their weapons toward the small human formation, firing everything they had. The space around the 12 human ships lit up with explosions and energy blasts. When the smoke cleared, all 12 human ships were still there, undamaged, calm, patient. "That's not possible," Dron whispered. Then calmly, without warning, one of the human ships fired again. Then another. Then another. Each shot found its target perfectly, destroying Drakkar warships one after another with terrifying precision. Within minutes, 20 Drakkar ships had been destroyed. Not a single human ship had taken damage. Panic began to spread through the Drakkar fleet. Officers shouted conflicting orders. Ships broke formation, trying to escape the deadly accuracy of the human fleet. Dron slammed his hand on his command console. "This is a trick, a distraction. Where is their true fleet hiding?" As if in answer to his question, sensors suddenly picked up a massive energy signature forming behind his own fleet. "High Marshal, something large is decloaking directly behind us." Dron turned sharply, his confidence completely gone now. Slowly, silently, a massive human warship appeared behind the Drakkar fleet. The same type of ship that had destroyed Commander Vex's forces at New Haven. But this time it was not alone. One by one, more identical warships began to appear, uncloaking around the entire Drakkar fleet, surrounding them completely. Dron stared at the screen, his mouth slightly open, his mind struggling to accept what he was seeing. "How many?" he whispered. 30. 40. "High Marshal, we count over 50 capital ships surrounding our fleet." Dron's hands trembled slightly on the console. 50 ships of that size, combined with weapons capable of destroying warships in a single shot, was more firepower than his entire empire had ever seen in one place. A calm human voice came through the communication channel. The same voice that had spoken to Commander Vex days earlier at New Haven. "You were warned," the voice said. "Peace was offered 3 times. You chose war instead." Dron's officers looked at him, waiting for orders, waiting for any plan that could save them. Dron opened his mouth to respond, his mind racing, searching desperately for any way to salvage the situation. But deep down, for the first time in his long, proud military career, High Marshal Dron understood something terrifying. They had already lost. Back on Earth, inside the hidden command center, Admiral Reyes watched the battle unfold calmly, his eyes steady on the reports flowing across his screen. "Enemy fleet is fully surrounded," an officer reported. "No casualties on our side." Reyes nodded slowly, showing no excitement, no pride. Just quiet focus. Captain Elias Wu, standing nearby, looked at the numbers with wide eyes. "Admiral, we destroyed 20 of their ships with just 12 vessels, and now we have their entire remaining fleet surrounded." "That was the plan," Reyes said simply. Elias hesitated before asking his next question. "Sir, will we destroy the rest of their fleet?" Reyes was quiet for a moment, his eyes fixed on the star map showing the trapped Drakkar ships. "No," Reyes said finally. "Destroying them all would only create more enemies, more fear, more future wars." He turned to Elias, his expression calm but firm. "We will let them go, but only after they understand something very clearly." "What's that, sir?" Reyes looked back at the screen, watching the surrounded Drakkar fleet slowly realize the full extent of humanity's power. That the era of underestimating humanity is over. High above Earth, Dron's fleet remained trapped, surrounded by human warships far more powerful than anything his empire had ever built. His officers waited nervously, expecting an order to fight, to run, to do anything. Instead, the calm human voice spoke again through the communication channel. "You will return to your empire," the voice said. "You will tell your leaders what you saw here today. Humanity does not seek war, but we will always be ready for it." Dron clenched his fists, humiliation burning inside him. But he had no choice. No options left. His pride, once unshakable, now lay shattered in front of his entire crew. "Set a course home," Dron said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. As his remaining fleet slowly retreated from the human system, Dron stared out at the massive human warships surrounding him, ships built with technology, power, and precision far beyond anything the galaxy had ever imagined humans capable of. For the first time in his life, High Marshal Dron felt truly afraid. And far across the galaxy, word of what happened above Earth began to spread once again. Faster this time, reaching every corner of known space. The Grand Alliance would soon call an emergency meeting. Because if humanity could do this to the mighty Drakkar Empire, no one in the galaxy could feel safe anymore. The Grand Alliance had not met an emergency session for over 100 years. The Grand Alliance was a group of the galaxy's most powerful species. Each member brought fleets, resources, and old grudges to the table. They rarely agreed on anything, but today, every seat in the great meeting hall was full, and every leader wore the same worried expression. Vorincell stood at the head of the table, his gray hands resting on the cold surface in front of him. Around him sat leaders from a dozen different worlds, including a shaken High Marshal Dron, who had just returned from Earth with the story of his defeat. "Tell them what you told me," Vorin said quietly. Dron stood slowly, his pride still bruised from the humiliation above Earth. He spoke carefully, choosing his words with unusual caution for a man once known for his boastful confidence. "We sent over 200 warships," Dron said. "We were destroyed and outmatched within minutes, not by numbers, but by precision. 12 small human ships defeated 20 of our warships without taking a single hit. Then 50 larger warships surrounded our entire remaining fleet in seconds, appearing from nowhere." The room went silent. A younger leader from a species called the Threll spoke up nervously. 50 ships that size. That is a small fraction of what a species that advanced could build. If they have even 10 times that number hidden away." He did not finish his sentence. He did not need to. Vorin raised a hand for silence. "This is exactly why we called this meeting. We do not know how large humanity's true fleet is. We do not know how advanced their technology truly is. What we do know is that they have been hiding it from us for years, while we treated them as harmless children." Another leader, an older female alien named Sela, folded her hands calmly. Perhaps they hid it because they feared exactly this. A galaxy full of species eager to conquer them the moment they showed weakness. Dron's face darkened with anger. "Are you defending them?" "I am being honest," Sela replied calmly. "We have spent decades treating humanity as a curiosity, not a threat. Perhaps that was our first mistake." The room fell into tense arguing, voices rising as different species debated what to do next. Some wanted to form a massive alliance fleet to attack Earth before humanity grew even stronger. Others wanted to open peaceful talks immediately, fearing what might happen if they waited too long. Vorin listened silently for several minutes, his old eyes tired but sharp. Finally, he raised his hand again, silencing the room. "There is something else you should know," he said quietly. "Something that happened only hours ago." The room grew tense. "What is it?" Dron asked. Vorin's expression turned grim. "Earth has requested to address this council directly." Gasps spread across the room. No human had ever spoken before the Grand Alliance. Humanity was never considered important enough to be invited. "Impossible," Dron said. "Humans do not have a seat at this table." "They do not need one," Vorin said quietly. "Not anymore." Back on Earth, preparations were underway for something humanity had waited decades to do. Inside a quiet government building overlooking the ocean, President Adrian Voss sat at his desk, reading through the final draft of a speech that would soon be sent across the galaxy. He was not a loud man. He did not enjoy attention, but he understood, more than anyone, the weight of what was about to happen. General Cross and Admiral Reyes stood nearby, watching him carefully. "Are you certain about this, Mr. President?" Cross asked. Voss looked up, his expression calm but serious. "For years, we hid our strength because we feared what the galaxy would do if they saw us as equals or worse, as threats. But hiding only made them see us as weak. It nearly cost us New Haven. It nearly cost us more." He set down the speech and looked out the window at the calm blue ocean. "It's time the galaxy understood exactly who we are," Voss continued. "Not to threaten them, but so they finally understand why threatening us would be a terrible mistake." Reyes nodded slowly. "Section 0 stands ready, sir. Whatever you decide to reveal, we will back every word with proof." Voss turned to them both, his eyes steady. "Then let's show them." The next day, a single human transmission was sent across the galaxy, reaching every major species, every government, every war council, including the Grand Alliance chamber itself. The screen inside the Alliance Hall lit up, showing President Voss standing calmly in front of a simple Earth flag, no grand decorations, no displays of wealth or power, just a calm man speaking honestly. "People of the galaxy," Voss began, his voice steady and clear. "My name is Adrian Voss, President of Earth. For many years you have known humanity as a young species, small, curious, and eager to learn. What you did not know is why we chose to remain quiet about our true capabilities." The room listened in complete silence. "When humanity first reached the stars, we quickly learned a difficult truth," Voss continued. "Many species in this galaxy respect only strength. Peaceful gestures were often seen as weakness, invitations for conquest rather than friendship. We watched other young species suffer this fate, conquered simply because they showed vulnerability too soon." Vorin listened closely, nodding slowly at these words. "So Earth made a difficult choice," Voss said. "We would extend peace to any species willing to meet us as equals. But quietly, patiently, we would also prepare for those who saw only weakness in kindness." He paused, letting his next words settle heavily in the room. "What you witnessed above Earth recently was not our full strength. It was a small fraction, revealed only because we were left no other choice." Gasps spread through the chamber. Dron's face turned pale. "We do not wish for war," Voss continued. "We never have. But we will always be prepared to protect our people, our colonies, and our future. Let today be the moment the galaxy finally understands humanity, not as a weak, curious species, but as a civilization that values peace deeply enough to prepare seriously for its protection." The transmission ended. The room remained silent for a long moment, every alien leader processing what they had just heard. Finally, Sella spoke quietly. "They are not proud. They are not celebrating power. They are simply telling us the truth, calmly and clearly." Dron shook his head, still struggling to accept it. "This changes everything." Vorin nodded slowly, his old eyes filled with something between respect and concern. "Yes," he said quietly, "it changes everything." While the Grand Alliance debated humanity's true intentions, far away in the depths of space, a new threat began forming, one that had been watching silently since the beginning. A species known as the Kryn Dominion, ancient and merciless, had ruled over conquered worlds for centuries through fear alone. Unlike the proud but honorable Drakkar, the Kryn believed only in absolute domination. They did not negotiate. They did not offer warnings. They simply conquered or destroyed. Deep within their capital ship, a massive vessel built entirely from the bones and metal of conquered worlds, the Kryn Overlord, a terrifying being known only as Thalrock, watched the human transmission with cold, calculating eyes. "They dare to warn us?" Thalrock said, his voice deep and filled with quiet menace. "A species barely out of its cradle believing itself capable of frightening the Kryn Dominion?" His advisors remained silent, waiting nervously for his judgment. "Send word to our border fleets," Thalrock ordered. "Prepare an invasion force. We will test this so-called true strength of humanity ourselves. And if their claims are true—" He paused, his cold eyes narrowing. "Then we will simply take their technology for ourselves, after we crush them completely." Back on Earth, celebrations were mixed with quiet tension. Humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy, but revealing strength often brought new dangers even more serious than before. Inside Section Zero's command center, Admiral Reyes reviewed new intelligence reports with growing concern. "Admiral," Captain Elias Wu said, entering quickly, "we've detected unusual fleet movements near Kryn Dominion territory. Their border fleets are mobilizing." Reyes frowned, studying the data carefully. The Kryn Dominion does not react well to perceived threats. They see peace as weakness, much like the Drakkar once did, except far more dangerous. "Do you think they'll attack?" Elias asked. Reyes was quiet for a long moment, his eyes fixed on the star map showing Kryn territory expanding closer toward human space. "I think," Reyes said slowly, "that showing our strength to the Grand Alliance was necessary, but it may have caught the attention of something far worse." Meanwhile, deep within a quiet military academy on Earth, a young cadet named Daniel Reyes, Admiral Reyes' own nephew, sat quietly during a history lesson about humanity's early struggles in space. The teacher, an older veteran named Colonel Grant, stood in front of the class, his voice calm but filled with memories of past hardships. "Many of you were too young to remember humanity's early years among the stars," Grant said. "Back then we had no allies, no powerful fleets, just courage and a desperate need to survive." He walked slowly among the young cadets, his eyes distant, remembering. "I served during the early colonization wars," Grant continued. "I watched good soldiers die because we simply did not have the strength to protect them properly. That's when Section Zero began, not from pride, not from ambition, but from a promise we made to ourselves." Daniel listened closely, his young heart pounding. "We promised," Grant said quietly, "that no human colony would ever again suffer needlessly, simply because we appeared weak to the galaxy." He looked directly at his students, his voice steady and firm. "That promise is why Section Zero exists today, not for conquest, not for pride, but so that families like the ones in New Haven, families like your own, never have to feel that fear again." Daniel felt a deep sense of pride and determination fill his chest. He understood, perhaps for the first time, exactly why humanity had prepared so carefully, so quietly, for so long. Back in Kryn Dominion space, Thalrock's massive invasion fleet gathered swiftly. More than 300 warships built for total conquest and merciless destruction. Word of this new threat reached the Grand Alliance quickly, causing immediate alarm. Voron Kal called another urgent meeting, this time inviting a human representative directly. Admiral Reyes himself arrived at the Grand Alliance chamber, standing calmly in front of dozens of alien leaders who watched him with a mixture of curiosity, respect, and lingering fear. "Admiral Reyes," Voron said respectfully. "Thank you for coming." Reyes nodded politely. "Of course." Dran, still humbled from his previous defeat, studied Reyes carefully. "The Kryn Dominion is gathering a massive invasion fleet. Do you understand what you are truly facing?" Reyes met his gaze calmly. "We understand exactly what we face." Sela leaned forward, curious. "And you're not afraid?" Reyes considered the question carefully before answering. "Fear is natural, but it does not control our actions. We have prepared for this exact scenario for a very long time." Voron studied him closely. "The Kryn Dominion has never known defeat, Admiral. They do not surrender, they do not retreat, and they do not show mercy." Reyes nodded slowly, his expression calm, but resolute. "Then perhaps," he said quietly, "it is time they finally learn what those words truly mean." As tensions rose across the galaxy, humanity quietly prepared for what would become its greatest test yet. A direct confrontation with the merciless Kryn Dominion, a species far more dangerous and far more determined than the Drakkar had ever been. Section Zero mobilized fully for the first time in its history, revealing fleets and technology never before seen, even by humanity's own government officials. Admiral Reyes stood once again inside his command center, watching the massive Kryn invasion fleet slowly approaching human space, his expression calm, steady, and ready. "They believe strength alone will guarantee victory," Reyes said quietly to Captain Elias Wu standing nearby. "Will it be enough?" Elias asked nervously. Reyes looked at the incoming fleet data, his eyes calm but sharp. The same eyes that had watched over New Haven, that had led humanity's forces above Earth against the Drakkar, and that now prepared to face humanity's most dangerous enemy yet. "No," Reyes said quietly, his voice steady and calm. "Strength alone rarely wins wars." He turned to Elias, his expression serious and determined. "But strength, combined with patience, courage, and the will to protect everything we hold dear, that has never failed us before." Outside, in the vast darkness of space, humanity's fleet quietly prepared itself, calm and ready, waiting patiently for the moment the galaxy would witness humanity's true test. A test that would decide once and for all whether humanity's careful preparation could truly stand against the galaxy's most feared and merciless empire. The Kryn Dominion was coming, and humanity would be ready. The Kryn Dominion fleet crossed the last stretch of empty space between their territory and the edge of the solar system. 340 warships moved together in a massive black wall, engines glowing red like burning coals. Nothing about them looked gentle. Nothing about them looked like mercy. Thalrock stood at the front of his flagship, a giant vessel built from the metal and bones of 100 conquered worlds. His eyes, dark and cold, watched the small blue planet ahead grow larger on his screen. "Send the signal to all ships," he said. "No warnings, no offers of peace. We take what we want, the way we always have." His officers obeyed instantly, too afraid of him to ever question an order. Behind him, deep within human space, sensors picked up the massive fleet long before it arrived. Warnings spread quickly through every command center on Earth and its colonies. But once again, there was no panic, only quiet, careful preparation. Inside Section Zero's underground command center, Admiral Reyes watched the numbers rise on his screen. 340 warships, an officer reported. Larger than the Drakkar fleet. Weapons signatures suggest far more advanced and aggressive technology. Reyes studied the data calmly. The Kryn Dominion does not believe in half measures. Captain Elias Wu, standing beside him, looked slightly pale. "Admiral, this is easily the largest force we've ever faced." "Yes," Reyes said quietly, "which means it's time to show them everything." Across the galaxy, word spread quickly that the Kryn Dominion was moving against Earth. The Grand Alliance chamber filled once again, every leader watching nervously through live sensor feeds provided by neutral observation ships stationed near human space. Voron Kal stood silently, his old eyes fixed on the growing conflict. Beside him, Dran watched with a strange mixture of fear and curiosity. After his own humiliating defeat, part of him almost hoped humanity could somehow survive this new threat. Sela, calm as always, spoke quietly. "If the Kryn Dominion succeeds here, they will not stop with Earth. They will move through the entire quadrant, growing stronger with every conquest." "And if humanity succeeds?" a younger leader asked nervously. Voron answered slowly, his voice heavy with meaning. "Then the galaxy will finally understand exactly what humanity has been hiding and exactly why they hid it." The room fell silent, watching the feeds as the Kryn fleet closed in on Earth's solar system. Back on Earth, President Voss stood quietly in the command center, watching alongside General Cross and Admiral Reyes. His face showed no fear, only quiet determination. "Admiral," Voss said calmly, "you may proceed exactly as planned." Reyes nodded respectfully. "Yes, Mr. President." He turned to his officers, his voice steady and clear. "Signal Section 0, full deployment. It's time the galaxy saw all of it." Far above Earth, in the quiet darkness of space, something massive began to stir. Hidden shipyards built decades ago beneath asteroid fields and hollowed-out moons opened slowly. From within, hundreds of warships began to emerge, gliding silently into formation. These were not the same ships that had faced the Drakkar. These were larger, more advanced, built specifically for a moment humanity hoped would never come, but had prepared for, nonetheless. At the center of this massive fleet, a single ship stood apart from the rest. Larger than any other vessel in the fleet, sleek and powerful, its hull glowing with a soft golden light. This was the flagship, Earth's Hope, humanity's ultimate symbol of quiet strength and careful preparation. Admiral Reyes boarded Earth's Hope personally, taking his place on the bridge as the massive vessel moved silently toward the incoming Kryn fleet. "All ships hold formation," Reyes ordered calmly. "Let them come to us." The Kryn fleet entered the solar system, confident and merciless, expecting an easy victory against a species they still saw as young and inexperienced. Thalrock watched calmly as his sensors detected the human fleet ahead, waiting silently in perfect formation. "They've gathered a fleet to meet us," he said, almost amused. "Foolish. No matter how advanced, numbers alone cannot save them." His officer studied the sensor readings carefully, his expression slowly shifting from confidence to concern. "Overlord, we're detecting over 400 human warships. Their technology readings are unusually advanced." Thalrock's eyes narrowed slightly, but he refused to show doubt in front of his crew. "No matter," he said firmly. "We have faced advanced enemies before. Begin the attack." The Kryn fleet surged forward, weapons charging, ready to overwhelm the human defense through sheer force and aggression. On Earth's Hope, Reyes watched calmly as the Kryn fleet approached, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. "All ships, engage defensive formations," he ordered. "Remember your training, precision over aggression." The human fleet moved smoothly into position, forming a wide, coordinated defense line. Unlike the chaotic aggression of the Kryn fleet, human ships moved with quiet discipline, each vessel perfectly aware of its role within the larger formation. The Kryn fleet opened fire first, unleashing a massive wave of energy weapons toward the human line. But the human ships were ready. Advanced shielding technology absorbed the initial assault almost effortlessly, energy weapons dissipating harmlessly against carefully designed defense systems. "Shields holding at 98%, an officer reported calmly. Reyes nodded. "Return fire. Target their forward assault ships first." Human warships responded with precise, controlled bursts of energy, each shot perfectly aimed, striking critical systems on Kryn vessels with terrifying accuracy. Ships exploded one after another, their crews barely having time to react before their vessels were destroyed completely. Thalrock watched in disbelief as his forward assault line crumbled within minutes. Ships he had personally led into countless victorious battles, now destroyed effortlessly by an enemy he had underestimated completely. "Impossible," he whispered, his confidence rapidly fading. "Send in the second wave. Overwhelm them completely." More Kryn ships surged forward, desperate to break through the human defense line through sheer numbers and aggression. But humanity had prepared for exactly this scenario. "Activate secondary defense grid," Reyes ordered calmly. Instantly, smaller human vessels that had remained hidden behind the main fleet moved swiftly into position, flanking the Kryn ships from multiple directions. Coordinated precisely through advanced tactical systems, they struck simultaneously, cutting off any possible retreat or regrouping for the Kryn forces. Explosions filled the space around Earth, illuminating the darkness with bright flashes of destroyed warships. The once mighty Kryn fleet, confident and merciless only minutes earlier, now found itself trapped, confused, and rapidly losing ground. Back on the Kryn flagship, Thalrock's confidence completely shattered as he watched his forces collapse around him. "How is this possible?" he demanded, his voice filled with disbelief and rising panic. "We are the Kryn Dominion. We do not lose." His officers remained silent, too afraid and shocked to respond. Reyes's calm voice suddenly came through their communication systems, clear and steady. "You attacked without warning," Reyes said calmly. "You believed strength alone guaranteed victory. But strength without wisdom, without patience, without true understanding of your enemy, is simply recklessness." Thalrock clenched his fists, humiliation and fear mixing together inside him. "This isn't over," he growled. "No," Reyes agreed calmly. "But it will be, very soon." Human ships tightened their formation around the remaining Kryn vessels, cutting off every possible escape route. Thalrock watched helplessly as his once unstoppable fleet was systematically dismantled, ship by ship, with calm, calculated precision. Finally, after nearly an hour of intense combat, only a handful of Kryn vessels remained, surrounded completely by the human fleet. Reyes's voice came through clearly once more. "Surrender now and your remaining crew will be spared. Continue fighting and you will share the same fate as the rest of your fleet." Thalrock's officers looked at him nervously, silently pleading for mercy. For a long, tense moment, Thalrock remained silent, his pride battling desperately against the harsh reality of his situation. Finally, humiliated and defeated, he spoke quietly. "Stand down. Cease fire immediately." The remaining Kryn ships slowly lowered their weapons, drifting silently amid the wreckage of their once mighty fleet. News of humanity's incredible victory spread rapidly across the galaxy, reaching every species, every government, every corner of known space within hours. Inside the Grand Alliance chamber, the room remained silent, every leader struggling to process what had just happened. The Kryn Dominion, feared and respected for centuries, had been completely defeated by a species many had considered insignificant only weeks earlier. Vornkal finally broke the silence, his voice quiet but filled with genuine respect. Humanity did not seek this war. They did not seek conquest or glory. They sought only to protect what was theirs, and they succeeded completely. Dran nodded slowly, his earlier arrogance now replaced entirely by humility and quiet respect. "We misjudged them badly. All of us did." Sela looked around the room calmly. "Then perhaps it's time we correct that mistake." Back on Earth, celebrations were quiet and reserved. Humanity had proven its strength, but there was no arrogance in their victory, only relief and quiet determination to continue building a peaceful future. Inside the military academy, young cadet Daniel Reyes listened intently as Colonel Grant addressed the class once more, his voice filled with quiet pride. "Today, humanity proved something important," Grant said. "Not that we are the strongest in the galaxy, but that we are prepared, patient, and determined to protect what matters most: our homes, our families, our future." Daniel felt a swell of pride and hope inside him, understanding clearly now why Section 0 had trained so carefully, so patiently, for this exact moment. Meanwhile, aboard Earth's Hope, Admiral Reyes stood quietly, watching the aftermath of the battle through his ship's viewport. The wreckage of Kryn warships drifted silently in space, a stark reminder of the day's events. Captain Elias Wu approached him quietly. "Admiral, we did it. We actually did it." Reyes nodded slowly, his expression calm but thoughtful. "Yes, Captain. But remember, victories like this are never something to celebrate loudly. They are reminders of why we prepare so carefully, why we value peace so deeply." Elias nodded, understanding fully now the deeper meaning behind humanity's careful, quiet strength. "What happens now, Admiral?" Elias asked. Reyes looked out at the stars, calm and steady, as he had been throughout the entire ordeal. "Now," Reyes said quietly, "we continue building trust, carefully and patiently, with those willing to respect us as equals. And we remain ready always for those who do not." Days later, President Voss addressed the galaxy once more, his voice calm, clear, and filled with quiet strength. "People of the galaxy," Voss began, "today, humanity faced its greatest challenge yet, and we prevailed, not through aggression, but through patience, preparation, and a deep commitment to protecting what we hold dear." He paused, letting his words settle across countless worlds listening intently. "We do not seek to rule the galaxy. We do not seek conquest or domination. We seek only peace, built upon mutual respect and understanding. But let today serve as a clear reminder to any who might consider testing our resolve again." Voss's eyes were calm, steady, and filled with quiet determination. "Humanity will always be ready to protect itself and those we choose to call friends." The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in quiet reflection, forever changed by humanity's calm, powerful message. Far away on the peaceful colony of New Haven, life slowly returned to normal. Mira, now older and wiser after witnessing humanity's darkest and brightest moments, stood outside with her younger brother once again, watching the calm night sky. "Do you think we're safe now?" her brother asked quietly, looking up at the stars. Mira smiled gently, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "We're safe because we were brave enough to be patient and strong enough to protect what we love." Above them, the stars shone calmly, peacefully, no longer symbols of fear, but symbols of hope, resilience, and quiet strength. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy had learned to fear humanity. Not because humanity sought power or conquest, but because they had proven, clearly and calmly, that they would always be ready to protect their home, their people, and their future. And across countless worlds, alien leaders, soldiers, and civilians alike would remember this day forever. The day the galaxy finally understood exactly who humanity truly was. Quiet, patient, prepared, and absolutely unstoppable when pushed too far.